Hello, everybody. Just wanted to go over cell division with you. Now, first, as we talk about cell division, there are a couple different types of cell division. I guess a few. We're going to talk prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells are going to use asexual reproduction. Now, what are the advantages for asexual reproduction? One, it only takes one organism, so they can reproduce really quickly. That's number two, reproduce very quickly. And number three, they have lots of kids. This video, it talks about how one organism, usually prokaryotic organism, one bacteria, can, if it reproduces every 20 minutes, will make trillions and trillions of organisms in 24 hours. So, right, because if you're doubling every 20 minutes, it just adds up real fast. Once you get into the millions, it's millions doubling. So pretty interesting. Now, what are the advantages for sexual reproduction? Well, on this picture, I put a bunch of different organisms that have variety. So you're going to have genetic variation. Genetic variation is going to be the biggest and most effective way sexual organisms have to survive. So they're going to survive a little bit better than normal. So they're going to have more longevity because they take care of their young, like this tiger, for this one. Now, plants, they'll have some longevity too, but that's pretty much it. That's all I want to talk about for that. But now let's talk about disadvantages. Disadvantages are the opposite. So, disadvantages to being a sexual organism is you got to find a partner. But I mean, that causes genetic variation, but still, you got to find a partner. Number two, it's a slower reproductive process. I mean, elephants, they take almost 2 years to reproduce. So, pretty crazy. And you're not going to have as many kids, probably. Now, plants, that's not always true, but depends on the plant, right? If you get a weed, it's going to grow up pretty easy. But I mean, get it. Any normal mammals and things like that, they're not going to have as many kids as, say, something that reproduces asexually. Now, we need to talk about cell cycle. Let's start getting into cell division. The cell cycle is how a cell divides and kind of what happens during its lifetime. Now, in order for it to divide, it needs to go through a phase called interphase. Now, interphase has three different phases. G1 phase, which the cell's growing, so it's doubling all of its contents except for its nucleus. So mitochondria are doubling, endoplasmic reticulum's doubling, everything's doubling. Cytoplasm, everything. So the cell's really growing. Then in S phase, the DNA is replicating. What that means is it's just making a copy of itself. So for humans, instead of having 46 chromosomes, naturally you're going to have 92 by the end of this. So that they can separate and make two identical cells that have 46 chromosomes in them. And then the last part is G2 phase. This is where it's making more enzymes. It's kind of repairing the DNA that happened in S phase and making sure everything is correct. And then we can move on to the cell division part. So those three, G1, S, and G2, are all part of interphase. So I want you to make sure you pay attention to that. Interphase has these three phases, G1, S, G2. Okay. Now, cell division, right here, we have two different types of cell division that happen in humans and a lot of different organisms. We have mitosis and meiosis. Mitosis is what is shown here. Here's prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase. That is what mitosis constitutes. So during prophase, well, I'll cover that on the next slide. And then cytokinesis is the splitting of the cell. Cytokinesis is the splitting of the cell. Now, when you have a cell that has a full set of chromosomes, so 46 in humans, or 23 sets, that is called a diploid cell. It is classified mathematically as 2n. So that is a diploid. diploid. So these cells that go through mitosis are diploid cells, and you're going to end up with 2 diploid cells, 2 of them. Then, well, let's go through meiosis, and then we'll see. There it is. All right. So during prophase, as you can see right here, let's look at it. During prophase of mitosis, you're going to see the chromosomes starting to appear. Now, these are called sister chromatids because they're identical. So you got 2 chromosome 1s, 2 chromosome 1s. They're going to split into separate cells and have an identical pair. So the chromosomes appear. That's what I want you to know. Chromosomes appear. And you can see here's a centriole right here. Centrioles aid in cell division, and these are known as spindle fibers. So centrioles and spindle fibers are what's getting everything ready for cell division. They're going to move the chromosomes all into the middle of the cell right here. Notice all the chromosomes, the sister chromatids, are lined up in the middle of the cell. That is called metaphase. Metaphase is when they're all lined up in the middle. Then the spindle fibers and centrioles start pulling them apart to separate them into separate cells. That is anaphase. You can see if they're separating apart. You're going to have an even split. That way you end up with 46 chromosomes in each cell. So it can be even and you don't have any problems. Now, one thing I want to remind you of and tell you is that mitosis happens in mitoses. That's what I always say. It happens in your toes, happens in your skin, happens in your muscles, heart, brain, just wherever it can. This is where it is going to happen. It's in your somatic cells, or normal cells. Somatic cells is where this is happening. So normal cells, any cell you usually think of, they're somatic cells. Got a little snicker stuck in my throat. Now, here is telophase. Telophase is here, and you can see that the nucleus is starting to reappear. The centrioles are done, spindle fibers are going away. So the main thing I want you to know, nucleus is reappearing, the cell is beginning to show a split. And then cytokinesis happens right here. Cytokinesis, the splitting of the cell. It is not an actual phase of mitosis. It is just the process of splitting the cell. That is what it is. All right. And that's mitosis. So here's what it looks like in an onion root tip. Let me move this out, shrink this down. So you can see here's prophase. You can see the chromosomes appearing. Here's metaphase right here. All the chromosomes are lined up, sister chromatids. Here the sister chromatids are splitting apart towards opposite ends of the cell. And here you can start seeing the line for telophase where it's starting to split. You can see the chromosomes are starting to uncoil. So what chromosomes are coiled up chromatin or coiled up DNA. That's what chromosomes are. So yeah, there you can see it in a plant. Here I'll show you in an animal. This is what animal cells look like. Okay, so you got prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, cytokinesis is here. All right, so let's go through these questions. What is the end result of mitosis? It is 2 diploid cells. You're going to have 2 cells with a full set of chromosomes in it. That's what you're going to end up with. Is mitosis a part of the cell cycle? Of course it is. Right, here's this whole cell cycle right here, and mitosis is this little part. So one thing that's cool is interphase takes about 20 hours, 18 to 22 hours, and cell division, so mitosis takes about an hour. So it's growing and getting ready for mitosis for almost a full out day before it actually splits. And that's what I wanted to tell you about mitosis.